Welcome to yet another edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast. I'm Walter Johnson, and in this episode of the High School Football Roundup podcast, I'm going to take one last look at the records of the various regions in our coverage area in non-region play, and especially as we head into region play. And I'm your host, Walter Johnson, for this edition of High School Football Roundup. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'll start in GHSA region and 1-7A. And the four teams in that region combined for an overall record of 16 wins against 11 losses, a .593 winning percentage, led by the Lowndes Vikings out of Valdosta, 6-1 overall, and the Vikings lost their opener to Valdosta in the annual Wintersville Classic, which was the very first game of the season. And usually it's held toward the end of the season, but thanks to the recent realignment, and Lowndes moved up to the all-new Class 7A, and Valdosta chose to remain in 6A, which is now the second highest classification. Since then, since the loss to Valdosta, Lowndes has won 6 in a row, and Tift County not far behind at 5-2, followed by Colquitt County, and the Packers out of Moultrie have won 3 in a row, following an 0-4 start, and Camden County at 2-4. And in Lowndes, Tift County, obviously the two best teams in the league record-wise, about 11-3 mark among those two teams, and then you can contrast that to the 5-8 overall mark for between Colquitt and Camden. And how about in Class 6A, Region 1 6A, perhaps the best overall mark in non-region games right now. Non-region games at the end of non-region play. 26-3 overall, led by 3 teams that are undefeated. And Houston County, number 1 ranked team in the state, as well as Northside of Warner Robins. And both teams are 6-0 on the season. And Lee County is 5-0. And they very well could have been 6-0 had their game against Hardaway that was scheduled for the Labor Day weekend, which would have been Friday, September 2nd, not been canceled due to Hurricane Hermine. And as I'm doing this podcast live, and for those that are listening, and there's a threat, and there's a possibility that Hurricane Matthew could dump a lot of rainfall on coastal Georgia and the areas east of I-75. We get a lot of rainfall, so Haiti and the Dominican Republic had a lot of rainfall dumped on them, but still way too early to tell. But as it stands, in Houston County is 6-0, will face Lee County, ranked 3rd in the state, at 5-0. And Northside of Warner Robins will visit Valdosta, and again, that's weather permitting. So hopefully those games will be postponed or canceled due to the threat of Hurricane Matthew. And speaking of which, one of our local college teams, Albany State, was supposed to face NCAA Division I FCS, or Football Championship Subdivision, Charleston Southern, out of Charleston, South Carolina. But that game has been canceled due to the threat of imminent threat of Hurricane Matthew There's been a lot of heavy rainfall and just maximum sustained winds. And back to the football. And Thomas, and moving on to Region 1-5A. And 12-7 finishing in the 5 teams in Region 1-5A, which basically consists of Bainbridge, Harris County, and Thomas County Central Veterans, and Warner Robins. And those 5 teams combined to finish 12-17 in non-region games. And Thomas County Central start off hot, going 4-0 overall. Started off at 4-0, but lost back-to-back games. First of Valdosta, and more recently Lee County, and then Harris County and Veterans, both sitting at 3-3. It's even more downhill from there. Bainbridge just 1-4. Been a disappointing non-region portion of the campaign for the Bearcats. Went 13-1 last season. Reached the semifinals in 4A, owing to lose to eventual state champion Cartersville. It's been a rough go, and going for the Bearcats, going 1-4. Only win so far against Class AA Early County, and a 50-7 rout in that contest earlier this season. And lost tough games to Lee County, state-ranked team, and also lost to Cairo, also state-ranked, and then tough losses to out-of-state teams like Dothan, Alabama, competes in Class 6A in Alabama, and if I'm not mistaken, and there are 8 classifications in Alabama, and the same in Florida. And they also lost to one of the top-ranked teams in the Class 5A in Florida, in Rickards of Tallahassee. And Bainbridge actually gave Rickards all it can handle before losing in a heartbreaker, 36-34 last week, and which was Friday, September 30th. And Warner Robins ran up the rear at 1-5 overall. And as rough as it's been so far for Bainbridge, and at the beginning of region play, they still have an outside shot of getting back to the playoffs. Maybe you make make the deep playoff run that they made last year. And also, before we move on, and you have Valdosta 5-1 out of Region 1-6A. The only loss so far came to Colquitt County, and Coffee at 4-2, and a very excellent record for as far as non-region action for Region 1-6A, 26-3 overall, and a very amazing record. And move right along in the GHSA Region 1-4A, and Cairo's in the driver's seat at 3-0 on the season, and the syrup makers rolled past America Sumter 36-21. Syrup makers actually led 29-7 at the half, and then America's Sumter made things interesting in the second half, but couldn't get any closer. And the syrup makers are 5-1 overall. And more importantly, they're in first place in GHSA Region 1-4A at 3-0 on the season, and then Westover at 2-1 in the region, 4-2 overall. Won back-to-back region contests since they're losing to America Sumter 21-6, and that was the region opener for both teams. and they rallied, came from behind to defeat Carver Columbus at Humil Stadium in a Thursday night contest on September 22nd, 23-20 last week. The Patriots traveled to Columbus and laid down the hammer on the Hardaway Hawks, winning convincingly 35-7. Westover led from wire to wire in that game, and American Sumter has lost back-to-back contests since knocking off Westover, losing to Northside Columbus, also nicknamed the Patriots 24-7, and then before last week's loss to Cairo, which makes the Panthers 1-2 in the region, and all 8 teams in GHSA Region 1-4A had the week off this week. And as to the Crisp County Cougars from Cordele, and we move right along as I move right along to GHSA Region 1AAA, and a combined 15-12 mark among those 5 teams of Cook County out of Adel, Georgia, Crisp County from Cordele, Daugherty and Monroe from Albany and Worth County, just east of Albany and Sylvester. Crisp County not only is the only undefeated team in Region 1 AAA at the end of non-region play at 6-0, and you're also the only team that's well above 500 at this point. Got Cook and Worth County both sitting at 3-3. Monroe at 2-2. Daugherty and rounding out Region 1 AAA at 1-4 on the season. And Crisp County has a bye this week, and the Cougars from Cordele Cougars from Cordele will sit it out while the other 4 teams will duke it out. And Worth County will travel to Cook, and Monroe and Daugherty will square off at Humil Stadium on Saturday night, October 8th. And it'll be interesting to see where those teams stand going into region play. And you see, and there's a limited amount of time left, and go on to GHSA Region 1AA, and the 6 teams there combined for 11-16-1 non-region record, and take away the non-region contest that's been played so far. Marion holding off Early County 16-12, and led by Brooks County Fitzgerald, both 4-1. However, both teams lost their first games of the season. The Heartbreakers and Brooks County losing on the road at Crisp County 16-14 on a last-second field goal with just 13 seconds to play in regulation. And Fitzgerald fell to Class 7A Tift County in Tifton 35-28, and Tift County also won that game in the closing seconds, and then it's been kind of downhill from there. And Marion at 2-2 in non-region contest, and then Early County 0-4-1, Albany High 0-5, and finally, in the big game in GHSA Region 1A last week took place down in Camilla between the Mitchell County Eagles and Randolph Clay Red Devils. And when the clock finally reached 0 at the end of the game, it was Randolph Clay holding off Mitchell County. Final score 28-22. And on that note, that's going to end this edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast. And you remember, you can follow the Southwest Georgia Network on Twitter at SWGA Network, as well as on Spreaker at SWGA Network 12345. I'm Walter Johnson. Thank you for listening, and have a good one.